What is up, people? Welcome back to the pod. Welcome back to the channel. We got our second guest appearance with Salik. I want to, of course, introduce myself, your co-host, along with your other co-host, Raza Ali. But our guest appearance for the day is none other than Salik Himati. Say what up to the people.
What's up, guys? Thank you for having me, guys. I've been waiting for this day.
Yes, sir. What's up, man? Um, so in terms of today's show, we're gonna talk a little bit about studs and duds like we always do, and then we'll talk a little bit about Salik's team because he is the guest today, and then we'll go into a segment which you guys are familiar with, but we're gonna put a little twist on it that kind of Salik has. So just jumping right into it, duds of the week. What are your biggest dud in your eyes, Salik?
I would have to go with Debo this
Ooh,
week. Week 7, with the CMC introduction, I feel like there's a lot of moving parts. Anything can happen going forward, but I just don't think Debo has been living up to like the value where people have been drafting him this year, in my
yeah.
opinion. Week 7, if you look at his stats, he had one rush attempt for 2 yards, 7 targets for 5 receptions for 42 yards. And
Gotcha.
there's been weekly reports that Brandon Ayuk has been the highest targeted receiver in the Niners every
Mhm.
week moving forward or previously. So to be honest, I just feel like, players like Waddle and stuff are putting the same numbers as him, and he's just not living up to his draft value.
Yeah, I mean, you really expect the big plays from Debo, and it seems like that's kind of been lacking this year. It also doesn't really help that he's been getting a lot less rushing attempts, so I totally agree with that take. It's going to be interesting to see how they pair CMC to go with Debo. It'll be a really interesting offense, and hopefully he'll have some better weeks ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head with that, both Raza and Salik. But are you kidding me? Like, Ayuk is just like the better wide receiver in the group, and I feel all of us can agree that, especially Salik, like Ayuk is just better than Debo as a receiver. As a player, that's maybe Debo, of course, Debo. But I think the Christian McCaffrey trade definitely caps Debo's value for sure.
Yeah.
I would say a dud for me is definitely CD Lamb. Just Dak coming back from injury. Man, was this guy so hyped. CD, like, oh yeah, wide receiver one. Dak's coming back. And he just drops a complete goose egg. 4 receptions for 70 yards, 11 points. And then, of course, the other wide receiver, Michael Gallup, got a complete goose egg, which was 0 points for me. So that was unfortunate. That Cowboys offense is a little shaky right now, especially with Dak coming back. But let's see. I think there's better days ahead.
Yeah, you got anything to add, Salik? Any
I would
feelings?
have to agree with you. Week 1 with Dak, he was already looking a little rough.
Yeah.
And dude, I don't know, man. I really wish they didn't bench Cooper Rush because he was playing so well, man. But
Yeah.
anyways, you move forward, but you see what happens with Dak. He obviously wasn't able to produce.
Yeah, I have to agree, but I have to agree to disagree as well to a certain degree. I feel like coming off a hand injury, it does take a little bit of time to recover and get into game shape. Like I'm sure we all played sports, both football and basketball. We know how it's like to get injuries, and we know like it takes a little bit of time to get in the rhythm. So I do feel like there's better days ahead for CD, but for sure this week their entire offense seemed like a dud and were carried by their defense. Another person to just quickly mention for the duds, I have to go with my main man, Lamar Jackson. He started off the year pretty hot. He was putting up 50 bombs, but he's fallen back down to earth with with missing Rashad Bateman. He was back this week, but wasn't really able to help as he didn't really score any touchdowns. He had 120 scoreless passing yards and 59 rushing yards. I'm sure Farhan, who just made a trade for him, was not very happy with that performance. But what can you say? Maybe there'll be some better days ahead. But yeah, I think Lamar is a decent quarterback, and it's just been a really weird year for quarterbacks in general. I'm curious to see what you guys think about him and what his sentiment is for the rest of the season.
What do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think with Lamar, if you look at his numbers, like he went off in the beginning of the season, and okay, Rashad Bateman is not like a wide receiver one in this league, but at least he's a field stretcher. Like at least we talked about it on the pod, I think last week or the week before. Like at least defenses have to somewhat worry about him. And when he was healthy, like Lamar had the flexibility of running or of throwing those short passes or taking those deep shots, and defenses had to play more conservative with Lamar. Now they can play aggressive. They can just stack the box, and Lamar doesn't play well. So you can see that when Bateman's out, his numbers start to slowly drop. Now that Bateman's coming back, I see those numbers going up, and I feel like there's better days ahead for the former reigning MVP.
Yeah, I would also have to agree. I feel like Lamar was a big dud this week. He's been looking, more of a running back than a QB in the last few weeks. No, but to be honest, I feel like moving forward, a big thing for me would not to draft a Ravens wide receiver.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
Yeah, so moving on, we can go ahead and hop into the studs. I'll let Sally kick it off with his stud. This person exploded.
Yeah, you already know my boy Joe Burrow, Joe Shiesty, baby. Joe Burrow. Okay, but dude, 481 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. Dude, this guy was on fire, dude. Go ahead.
No, you got it.
Yeah, but almost 50 fantasy points. I think it was close to 50, 42 fantasy points. Man,
yep.
Next thing I want to see him is beat Tua's high performance game this season.
Dude, one thing I want to add, I'm super happy that they finally, like in the beginning of the season, they were like not passing the ball as much as they did last year, and they finally just given the reins to Burrow to just let loose and just let it fly. Like, you know how they say let Russ cook? Nah, screw that, man. Let Burrow cook, man. This guy's going insane. Like, who do you know is throwing for 480 passing yards in a game? That's insane.
He's got the dog in him, bro.
Yeah.
That's wild, dude. And he has like just the receivers at his disposal: T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and then like kind of Raza said, yeah, he's kind of given the keys to the offense. But that opens up Joe Mixon. Like he had 17 rushes for like a 60 yards and a tutty, something like that. Mm-hmm. Like that's a good stat line for a running back. So he's opening up for like every other player on the offense too. Hayden Hurst. But yeah.
Speaking of Boyd, he was also a top receiver this week too.
Yeah, Boyd was a stud for sure. Yeah, I think it's anytime you can make like your wide receiver 3 kind of on the radar and be like a fantasy top performer, that's when you have a good quarterback. And he's making tight ends relevant. Speaking of tight ends, great transition. The leader of tight end university, George Kittle.
Yes, sir.
Man, 98 yards, 6 receptions, 1 touchdown.
Week.
Us 3 saw it in person. Thankfully, it was kind of a sight to see. He was a beast. They could not guard him. Very cool to see. Honestly, I didn't expect Kittle to be as good as he was, especially with Christian McCaffrey coming over, Jimmy Garoppolo being that check down guy. So it was nice, very pleasant to see Kittle perform. And, I can only hope that he continues to perform throughout the season.
For sure. Yeah. Honestly, yeah. I feel like he always performs on National Tight Ends Week, his created holiday. Dude, he's a beast. Yeah, just keeping it in the same game, just to move on, because we're a little low on time. We got to see another masterpiece from the man himself, Patrick Mahomes, on the other side of the field. Dude, I just feel like anytime this guy steps on a field, it's just magical. I'm sure we can just talk about this for days and days with just the great throws he was making, and it just seems like it doesn't really matter who he's throwing it to. He's just always putting up stats. So he had 423 passing yards and 3 passing touchdowns. And yeah, just to kind of go into our interview, to segue into it, since all three of us actually went to this game, I wanted to get Salik's opinion and ask you, how did the Niners game feel, and like, what did you see or what did you enjoy most about that game?
Yeah, sure. No, the Niners game was amazing, dude. That was the first time, going to an NFL game.
Oh
And it
yeah,
was against the Chiefs too. Man, that's a great first game. Uh, but I was really hoping that this could have been like, the game of the year, possibly, like 30 plus points on each side, but it looked a little rough, towards halftime. But uh, everyone was playing well. I was, super happy that Kittle finally became tight end one. And I'm really happy that, Ayuk is getting the usage that I feel like he deserves.
Yep.
And moving forward with the CMC trade as well, I just have, I just feel like there's nothing but ups for the Niners.
Yeah, honestly, dude, it was like you said, Raza, like quite literally magical to see Patrick Mahomes in in person, dude. Like this man has just an aura around him,
you got to
and
see
he
it to
just
believe it.
complete
Yeah,
throws out of nowhere. Like he didn't have any no look crazy passes, but just
right.
so calm in the pocket. Like he could, dude. He was delivering balls to Mike Mount MBS.
Yeah,
I can't even pronounce his name.
Marquez.
Like that's Marquez Valdez Scantling, bro. He's just tore apart the
Right.
Niners D and picked them every way they could.
Yeah,
And
you know what? One thing I also wanted to mention just really quickly, I feel like the pairing of Andy Reid with Patrick Mahomes is probably the best coach to QB pair you could have. I'm not gonna say anything against Belichick and Brady,
oh,
but okay,
okay.
it might be a little bit of a hot take, but dude, the way he schemes games for him, I've not seen that before, like with anyone. Um,
Yeah,
I just think he's probably the best coach right now, and dude, he put up a master game. Like there were a lot of times. Sorry, I just want to get into it really quickly. There were a lot of times where he basically schemed out Nick Bosa in terms of he'd make his pass rush go against him. What I mean by that is he'd get so deep that when Patrick Mahomes would move upfield a little bit, he'd be able to have quick shots to like people like Nicole Hardman, who ended up having like a really good game. So like it's
yeah,
crazy to see how like these small game plans that they include to take out your best player can really change the course of a game.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I guess more so talking about fantasy rather than actual football, because we can talk for about hours about actual football. But kind of diving in with our guest host, Salik. How are you feeling about your team? I mean, like first couple of weeks of the season, you were off to a rocky start, and now you're turning things around. Your top five.
All I have to say, man, is history repeats itself.
Ooh,
Started off last place last year, won the league. Started off ninth place. I was just literally in ninth place last week. I'm fifth
damn.
place now. I'm pretty happy in the spot I'm at right now. Just gotta get a few more wins under my belt and then hopefully have a good playoff run. And I'm sure Raza is also pretty happy. I think he was last place, and now he's also moved up in the
Yeah,
leaderboards.
we're both moving up together.
Yeah, time for the top teams to struggle.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that in that case. I mean, honestly, just looking at your team, going through the people, it's a lot of wait and see people, especially with D Hop. For you to keep him for what 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and then now him just exploding, and he's gonna only perform better than he did. DK Metcalf being out is kind of rough for you. But just looking at your team again, Michael Thomas is on IR. I don't believe in Cam Akers. That's just me. But
Don't worry, I'm
no,
slowly losing hope too.
there's definitely players that are high upside, and once they come back from injury, you'll be good.
Yeah, for sure. And after that big Javonte Williams injury, I lost him for the season. Having Hopkins back was huge. And then if Michael Thomas could come back in place of DK, that would really benefit me moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. What do you think your like expectations are for the rest of the season? Like, do you think you're gonna finish number one, or will you like sneak in the playoffs and then kind of go from there?
I think I would say I'll probably just sneak into playoffs.
Okay, that's fair. That's a humble approach.
Yeah, because I think other players, some rookies you don't even know like their what would you say their limit yet.
Yeah,
Some like Kenneth Walker could freaking score 50 next week. I don't know, but some
true.
teams that have like some of those players, I feel like it could really benefit them. They could be league winners, to be honest, too.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just one more question for you, really quickly. So we asked this question to Ali as well, so I wanted to get your take to see how you're feeling. So how do you feel so far about our league, just in general, overall? And do you have any hot takes with any teams currently in the standings?
Shoot. Okay. Well, in terms of our league, I love our league. So competitive. We had a little bit of a. I don't even want to get into it, but super competitive. That's why I love our league. But in terms of hot take for our league, I would say for Han's team, I think he could go on a win streak anytime soon.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really like that take. I love how you have like a note sheet, super prepared. Best guess we've had so far, and definitely adding Ali on that one. Yeah, dude. Like, Farhan's team is just like it's just unlucky after unlucky weeks. So, I could definitely see his team making a run. How about you, Reza?
Yeah, dude. That's a good one. I feel like it's very interesting that he has a lot of crazy good players. Like he has some really good name value on his team. And I think like it's crazy like how competitive our league is. People you'd expect to be like middle of pack at least, they're like sitting at the bottom, and like vice versa. And it's always flipping. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like if I had to say something, who knows? Maybe Daniel finishes last? Question mark.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. It could really go anyway. But it'll be very interesting to see. I think in terms of kind of moving forward, uh, this is kind of the last segment before Shaqtin. We again, I've expressed like whenever you guys do come on, express kind of what you guys want to do, and then we can play with it on the pod. And Salik really liked Ali's idea from a couple weeks ago in terms of like the marry, date, kill type of concept. So I can kind of hand it over to Salik, and he can kind of take away his addition.
Yeah, sure. So, essentially what I wanted to do was the same thing, marry, date, and kill. Marry being, well, I wanted to do it for the top rookies
Okay.
so far, all the way to up to week 8. And, marry would be you love the player both in dynasty and redraft. Uh, Date would be loving the value only in redraft.
Okay.
And kill would be people that, you're just looking to cut.
Okay.
And do you want to go into it, Reza? Talk about a little bit about the top 10 rookies.
Yeah, so I can quickly just go over our list of top 10 rookies just so we have an understanding of like who we're going to be picking from. So just to go down the list, number 1 we have Brees Hall, number 2 Damian Pierce, Chris Olave at 3, Drake London 4, Pickett 5, Kenneth Walker at 6, 7th is Brian Robinson, 8th is Garrett Wilson, 9 is Romeo Dobbs, and 10 is Jahan Dotson. So I'll let Saleh go in and you can start us off.
Sure. Uh, yeah. So I would say my Mary would be Pickens.
Oh, sorry. Can you start by first just mentioning your three? Actually, let's start with mine. Actually,
Okay.
so from this list, I'm gonna essentially pick three people, and I'll have you guys decide, marry, date, and kill for them, and I want to know your explanation and why you think you'd go with those people. So
Sure.
for my three, I have Brees Hall, Damian Pierce, and Kenneth Walker, and I'll let our guests start with marry, date, and kill.
Sure. Okay. So I would have to marry Kenneth Walker. I would
And why? Like,
date.
give us a little bit of info on why.
Shoot. Okay. So like I said, you don't even know what his ceiling is, right? So I really feel like Kenneth Walker is like a mini Derrick Henry, like baby Derrick Henry, something like that. Like even Nick Chubb comparisons. So I really like him as a rookie. He just went off last week, and I would marry him. In terms of date, I would date Damian Pierce. He's putting up numbers, stats don't lie. If I had him in redraft right now, I would be happy. And then
Yeah.
I would cut Brees Hall, surprisingly. There's some takes, why wouldn't you hold him in Dynasty, stuff like that. But fact is, after major injuries, you never know what happens. With the recent signing of James Robinson too, what if he starts going off? What if Michael Carter, solidifies himself? Brees Hall was great, but I don't want to take that risk, in my opinion.
What do
Yeah,
you think?
I think that's fair. I kind of agree with like the cutting of Brees Hall. Of course, that sounds crazy, but like, yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of a lot of people when they have major injuries, especially ACL, it's like they most likely don't come back 100%. So especially a Jets player, just he doesn't have history on his side. Brees Hall is like a cut in terms of all those people. I would actually marry Damian Pierce over Kenneth Walker. I just like the offensive line and how it's um, performing for Damian Pierce more often, and I think he has more upside in terms of receptions, especially with probably they're going to draft another quarterback. Hopefully, Davis Mills is awful, but hopefully Houston Texans kind of feature him as like the main back, whereas Kenneth Walker, of course, I love him in redraft. He has that breakaway kind of touchdown ability, but in terms of dynasty, in my head at least, it's more so kind of other stars show. Of course, Pete Carroll is kind of like a run first coach, but to win games in this league, like you have to air the ball out. And if you have Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, like they're going to emphasize those players. So in terms of dynasty, I like Damian Pierce more than Kenneth Walker.
Mm.
It's interesting you say that. My take's a little different, but it's a little bit of the same of what you guys have. I actually will choose the Mary Brees Hall.
Okay.
That might be a hard take, especially because he tore his ACL and he's out for the season, so I don't get that redraft value. But I think his dynasty value is a lot more inflated because I think he's a mix of both Pierce and Walker. Because Pierce was kind of drafted a lot lower, so the capital they spent on him is also lower, which makes me think that the Jets would give him every opportunity to take back the role he has and to hold it at all times. And he also has that reception ability. Um, I'll go with date for Kenneth Walker, mainly because I've seen firsthand on my fantasy team how he can literally win you a week with his breakaway speed upside, like what you was mentioning. He can break up any play for a touchdown, and I'll have to go with kill Damian Pierce, not because he's a bad player or anything, but I just rather take the upside over just like 4 receptions for 15 yards to be added on to, what Kenneth Walker can do a little bit better, which is running.
Yeah, that's definitely super fair, and I kind of like your like analysis of everything. Yeah, Brees Hall, like me and Sally could have kind of both kind of eat our words in that and kind of be wrong in terms of Brees Hall is just like amazing for the next 10 years, and he's a dynasty gem. I guess Salik, you're gonna go into your three in terms of your marry, date, and kill.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think about marrying, dating, and killing between Olave, London, and Pickens?
Hmm. I guess I can take it first.
Yeah.
I really like Olave, both in Dynasty and redraft. He's just, of course, he's tied to like Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton, but I really hope that that'll change in the future. Like Saints, I'm sure they'll get a quarterback soon, or even trade for one in the future. and we've seen Olave just produce both with Michael Thomas and when he's out, he's just an absolute dog. In terms of Pickens, I really like Pickens. Kenny Pickett just targets him more than Dante Johnson and Chase Claypool. And Kenny Pickens is or not Kenny Pickens, George Pickens.
Pickens, yeah.
I feel like he's like the safety blanket for his rookie quarterback, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are gonna continue to go with that Pickett Pickens duo. So I really like him in redraft. London is a cut for me. Atlanta Falcons, offense is just awful, and I can just stop there in terms of their offense.
For sure, dude. Yeah. Seeing as the fact that the Falcons throw the ball, like this last game, they threw the ball and completed it 7 times. So like,
Wow.
how is anyone supposed to produce anything with that sort of little volume? Even though that's the case, dude, this is tough. I can't do it. I have to kill London. I was gonna say Mary because I feel like he has the most upside of these three. Like he's probably the best pure wide receiver out of those
Yeah.
three. It doesn't make sense to me, bro. Like he's a top 10 pick and they're not even using him. So why the hell did you waste a pick on such a good receiver? But I'm sorry, like their offense is really bad. I can't do it. I'm gonna say date Olave because he's a better overall receiver currently than Pickens. Like he's on a better offense, and he's already proving to be like one of the alpha receivers, rookie receivers. And I'll marry Pickens because I feel like he has a lot of upside in the future. You never know how good the Steelers can end up becoming if they get like a better offensive line or if they improve their offense just a little bit. I believe in Mike Tomlin. He's a good coach, so I definitely think it's a very high possibility that'll happen. Yeah, that's my take.
I would have to agree with you too, Reza. Every single player. I would cut London. I would marry Pickens.
Okay.
And only reason I would marry Pickens is just because I feel like future trades are coming for the Steelers. Maybe Deontay Johnson could be out of there soon or something.
That's
Who
a good
knows?
one.
Let's see. But I would date Olave also just because I feel like this is becoming like a Alexander Madison, Dalvin Cook situation with Michael Thomas and Olave. So if MT, continues what he's doing with his injuries, misses a bunch of games, if you have like Olave on your bench, I feel like that would be great for fantasy teams.
Yeah. Solid. Yeah, I can see that. Just because we're kind of short on time, I think we're gonna kind of jump into Shaqtin. So, little drum roll, please. Shaqtin of this week is none other than Daniel Mirza. No
Whoa.
surprise there, but I mean it was coming. He hasn't caught Shaqtin this whole year, and he finally got his first Shaqtin. It may be his second Shaqtin, I'm not sure, but kind of just jumping into one of the trades he made recently about one of the guys we were just talking about with George Pickens. Traded away George Pickens for Romeo Doubs. I was kind of the benefactor in that trade. He started Romeo Doubs, put an absolute dud of 0 points. Honestly, what are you doing, Daniel? Like, that's just the biggest thing for Shaqtin in terms of everyone and what they think. He only put up 102 points, so barely broke 100 points this week. Hopefully, he can do some trades where he doesn't get fleeced. But yeah, sorry for kind of going in on Daniel. We all love you. You do have still some studs on your team. I'm a big believer of having the more studs on your team, the better you'll be. You have Devontae, you have Saquon, you have Kamara. Hopefully Dak works out. Hopefully Bateman works out. But yeah, that kind of sums it up. Do you guys have anything to add?
Yeah, I'm just big on don't make the same mistake you've made in previous years multiple times. I feel like you should learn your lesson from your mistakes, which is something that Daniel has really struggled with. He drafts well. I'm not even gonna lie. He drafts well and he chooses some good players. If he just gives them a little more time to develop and let the team mesh well, I think that would really benefit him.
Yeah, 100%. Salih, do you have any final words about him?
Dude, Honestly, if anyone should use a trade analyzer, I feel like it would be Danya. It should be Danya. No,
Dude,
I'm just joking.
exactly.
You know, he drafted good initially, but you know, keep telling people, man, like over trading kills your season. But you know, everyone has their own opinions on that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that sums up our show for today. Again, Salik, we are thankful that you took the time out of your day
Yeah,
to
thank you.
join us on the pod. A good 30-minute pod, probably. But we had a lot of juicy stuff to talk about. And thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
Of course. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yes, sir. See you.
See ya.
Peace, people.